Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to play Flamecraft, which is a worker slash, they're calling it dragon placement game by Cardboard Alchemy, designer Manny Vega. In this video, I'm going to briefly touch on setup, not really go into detail, but then cover how to play if you're playing a standard game. And then at the end, I'm also going to cover what the differences are if you're playing solo. So if you're interested in solo only, and you're familiar with generally how to play the game, check out the timestamps below and you can jump right to that section at the end of the video. So, for setup is pretty straightforward. There are starting locations and starting dragons that are going to start out on the board. You do not have to put them out all six like this, face up. It's just how I've been doing it because it's easier for solo since I'm the only one staring at them. You could mix them around. But you'll notice that the starting dragons and the starting locations have this like trumpet with a flag beneath it. That's the kind of starting symbol. Then you're going to want to go ahead and shuffle up your Artisan dragons. If you're playing with less than 4 or 5 people, you are going to remove some of these from the deck that's in the rule book. And you're going to shuffle up your fancy dragon deck. Put your coins out on the fountain here. Want to make sure you have your resources somewhere nearby. And then you're going to take either the purple enchantment deck or the gold enchantment deck. You do not mix them together. They recommend starting with the purple one. So that's what I have laid out here. You shuffle that up and you can see there's little spots for them on the mat. You deal out 5 here. For individual players, each player is going to be dealt 2 face down fancy dragons. You're going to have to choose one before the game starts, and you're each given 3 artisan dragons. All of this would normally be dealt face down. I'm going to go ahead and flip them over just for the purposes of explaining the game. Last thing is you're going to want to obviously have a dragon miniature. I've got the fancy dragon here as mine, along with a reference sheet. If you're playing solo, you're going to want the solo reference sheet as well, and then a scoring token that matches your dragon color. There is a 50 on one side here. The 50 is for if you make a full lap around, you would flip it over, so now you have 55, 60, so on and so forth. But for right now, it just kind of starts off to the side. Your dragon starts in front of you, and we now need to decide which fancy dragon we're going to start the game with. So, 2 things here when looking at your fancy dragons is the symbol up here in the banner in the upper right hand corner. A moon symbol means that this dragon is going to score at the end of the game. All right, so you're going to hold on to it. You're going to try and set yourself up to score as many points as the end of the game as possible. The sun symbol, however, these fancy dragons, they score during the game. So when you meet the criteria on the card here, you can turn it in, score those points, and then you're kind of done with that one. You don't ever truly get rid of them. You just kind of stack them off to the side somewhere, but you can't score it again. You cannot score a fancy dragon multiple times. So let's see here, just for the purposes of we'll go ahead. I always like to start with a you can always put this one on the bottom too that you put back. I always like to start with the sun one, simply because it gives me the ability to actually start scoring points right away. It's a little hard to think end game before the game even starts. So set this one down near your spot, and then you're gonna, and if you're playing multiplayer, you would want to place this face down or keep it in your hand, because this is information that only you want to know. You don't want your other people you're playing with wary of what you might be going for. All right, then you have your starting dragons. Each dragon in this game is unique. The artwork's all unique. The names are unique. But all dragons of the same color have the same ability. So a meat dragon's always going to do the same thing. So it really doesn't matter whether you get, if you look over here in our kind of park, which is our market of dragons we can add to our deck, or add to our hand, you see 3 of the metalworking dragons: flint, rusty, and coal. All 3 of them look differently. They all have different names, but they all have the same exact action. So if I'm going over here, it really doesn't matter unless I have a strong preference of name. All right. On your turn, All right, turns are very simple. They're very quick. On your turn, you have to move your dragon. So at the beginning of the game, you're just going to pick any location that is open, and you're going to place your dragon there. Okay? If, however, at any point in time, you move your dragon to a location where there is another dragon, another player, you have to pay them one resource. That can either be any resource of your choosing or a coin if you have access to it. And if you have multiple ones, you get to choose. But you have to pay them something to kind of barge in and disrupt their shopping experience. Also, you have to move on your turn. So if I start my turn at the Smith Mart, I cannot stay at the Smith Mart and activate it again. I have to move somewhere else. Okay? So those are the basic movement rules. Once you move to a location, you have two options. All right, and these are the two biggest options, most important decisions you will make throughout the game. Are you going to gather from a location, or are you going to enchant a location? So, in a worker placement game, this is simply, are you milling the resources at that location? Are you sending your worker to that location to gain resources, or are you helping to build up those locations to make them better in the future? So this game, everything is kind of community property. This town is accessible to everyone. So when you upgrade a location, anyone else can go visit that location as well throughout the game and gain the benefits from you upgrading it. But upgrading it is where all the points come from. All right? So you have gone to your location and you need to decide whether you're going to gather or enchant. Let's start with gather. That's kind of the more basic of the actions, and that's how you gain the resources to then spend on the enchantments. When you go to a location, you're going to look at all of the symbols in the upper left corner of the location and all dragon cards that are down. So in this instance, I would gain 2 anvils for going to this location and deciding I'm going to gather. If this is what this location looked like when I went here, I would get 2 anvils. I would also get a meat and a leaf. All right, so the more full a location is, the more lucrative it's going to be to gather there. All right, but let's just pull these back for a second. I've gone here, I've gathered my 2 anvils. Now, I have the choice of placing a dragon. I don't have to place a dragon. It is my choice, but if I do, I have to follow the placement rules. You'll see here there are 2 symbols on this one. There's 1 on this one. So in order to place here, I would either have to have another metal dragon or a potion dragon, which you could see right here, or the only one that can go here is a potion dragon. Okay, I actually don't have any of these in my hand, so that really would not be a good place to start. So where can I go to spend these guys? Well, let's actually go over here for our first turn. I would gain 2 leaves as part of my gather action. All right, now I can play down a dragon. I have 2 green dragons in my hand and 1 meat dragon. So there's only one spot I can go. I'm going to place there. By placing there, I gain the reward that's in color. So you'll notice the payments in kind of black and white, sepia tone, and the reward is in color. In this instance, I would gain 1 coin. Coins in this game are wild resources. All right, so you can spend a coin in place of anything else, but they are not considered a goods. So if you are told to claim 2 of the same, for example, coal here, gain 2 of 1 good from the shop here or from a dragon here, you cannot gain a coin as a good. Coins are you only get coins when you see a coin symbol, but they can be traded in as a wild for any good that you see. All right, so you have placed a dragon. Now you have, again, the option, all of this is optional, to fire up a dragon, basically activate a dragon that is at your location. In this instance, both of them are green. All right, so if I choose to, I could give up a resource, gift, in this case, gift to another player. So I would have to give the leaf to someone else, but if I do, I'm going to get 2 hearts. In this game, hearts are your victory points. It's your reputation. All right, but let's just say for the sake of examples here, I had gone to this location. I had gotten my 2 diamonds in place of my 2 leaves. I had placed my guy down, still getting my coin. All right, now I have the choice. Do I either want to gain 3 different goods, which again has to be these, cannot be coins, or do I want to gift one of my diamonds to somebody to gain 2 points? More than likely, early game, you're probably going to want to get some resources going. All right. Last but not least is you have the opportunity to activate the store. So you're activating a dragon that works there, then you get to activate the store. Well, your starting locations, none of them have abilities. But as soon as you place down a new location, they're all going to have a banner right here. And in this instance, you could gain a reputation for every dragon type in town that matches your shop reward. I'm not really sure if that makes sense. Gain 1 for every dragon type in town that matches your shop reward. Dragon. Oh. So in this instance, whatever dragon, if I go to this location, I actually get to draw a dragon from the park. Once I've drawn that dragon, I have to remember what it is, because every other dragon that is placed out in town, I would be able to score for that type of dragon. So that's what that means by activating a location. None of the starting locations can be activated. All right. Now, let's say, for example, further down the road, we are in a better situation. We've gathered some more resources, and we've gone, say, here, like that, and that guy's out there. Okay, now we want to enchant a location. We actually want to start scoring points. So this is the other option you can choose when you move your dragon. Remember, you have to move your dragon every turn, and it has to be to a new location. So in this instance, let's go to the Draco Bell here, and instead of gathering, so I don't gather any meat, I don't pick up any resources, I'm going to enchant. All right, and I see here that there is only one option that I can, La Flamberge. I can add this enchantment to the Draco Bell by paying 1 diamond, 2 leaves, and 3 bread. If for some reason I was short any one of these resources, I could turn in a coin in place of one of those resources. But in this instance, I have everything I need. I return all these to the supply. All right, this slides under here now, and the victory on it was 6 points. So I would jump up here 6 points. After you have enchanted a location, you can activate not just 1 dragon, but all dragons at a location. So in this instance, I could place 2 dragons in town. Well, I only have 1, but I could say, all right, I want to put this guy somewhere because I'm going to get the reward. Where can he go? I still have to follow placement rules. I'm going to go here, and that's going to give me the ability to draw another dragon, a fancy dragon, that I can score points off of. All right. If I had another one, I could then do this, or if I had, a blue one there. If you go and enchant and there's only 1 dragon, you only get to fire off 1 dragon. If, however, your location is full, you get to fire off each one of those. And at any point in time, they are always optional. So you don't have to place a dragon in town if you don't want to. You don't have to gain goods from the shop that's here. That's all optional. You do not get to you do not get to gather when you enchant, and you do not get to activate the location. So, important notes. When you gather, you get to collect resources, you get to place a dragon, you get to fire off a dragon, and you get to activate the location. So it's 4 things you can do. If you enchant, you basically pay for the enchantment, gain your victory points, and fire off all the dragons, and then you're done. All right. At the end of any turn, if you have activated or bought an enchantment, you're going to want to refill this row here. If you have picked up any dragons from the park, you would want to refill those. And if you have filled up a location, so 1, 2, 3 dragons are at a single location. We actually have done it twice now. All right, but let's just say, for example's sake, I didn't fill this one up and I just filled that one up. You would take the top location from your stack of new locations that can come out. You're going to want to flip it over. Technically, in a multiplayer game, you would flip it over like that. But for the purposes of this video and playing solo, I'm going to flip it over like that. All right, this is now a viable location I can go to. It's giving me a bonus location activation. It's giving me 3 spots that any dragon can go in. It's giving me victory points as my bonus. So you definitely want to get these locations out. They are much better than your starting locations. All right, so basically you have refilled the town of any empty slots at the end of your turn. And that's it. Those are your 2 options, okay? Again, at any point in time, if you have a day fancy dragon and the things have been met on the bottom of the card, you can turn that in. Each dragon you could use, you could activate this turn, may gain 2 instead. Okay, so for example, this one, if I went there and so focuses, let me read it completely. Each dragon you could fire up is the term. Each dragon you could activate this turn may gain 2 victory points instead. So if I went here and I didn't have any dragons in hand to place out, or I didn't want to, I could say, all right, 1, 2, 1, 2, and this one maybe I do want to gain resources, so I could get 2 stakes to add to my 2 anvils here, which then isn't really going towards anything, but that's fine. Or in this instance, this would not be a good one to play right now. This would be after you have played an enchantment, gain 2 per enchantment of the same type in town. Well, there's only one meet one, so I would only gain 2 points. But just know that those are there to play when it's your turn if you've met the requirement. All right. Play passes to the next person, and you basically just keep going around and around and around until one of 2 things happen. And those both have to deal with these decks. If the enchantment deck ever, the draw deck ever runs out, or the dragon, artisan dragon draw deck ever runs out. Whenever each one of these, the last card is removed from the draw pile and added either to your hand or to the tableau here, that activates the end game. Everybody gets 1 more turn, and then you do final scoring. For the most part, everybody's score is already going to have been tracked throughout the game with this, but again, if you have any moon dragons, fancy dragons, they're going to score at the end of the game. Also, coins in your hand at the end of the game are worth 1 victory point each. Resources are worth nothing, and artisan dragons in your hand are worth nothing unless some fancy dragons score based on the resources you have. Do you have 1 of each resource? Do you have an even number of resources? Do you have an odd number of resources? Do you have how many artisan dragons do you have in your hand? So pay attention, because each fancy dragon is unique and different. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Remember that as you are competing with other people, if you need to use their location that they're at, you have to pay them a good. And also, any improvement that you add to a location, everyone else is going to have access to as well. Before we move on to how to play solo, let's quickly cover what each different dragon does, because that is important. All right. The green dragons here, we talked about this earlier. You have to gift a good to another player. If you do that, you gain 2 reputation points. Pretty straightforward. All right, meat dragons here. Place a dragon in town. You have to have that dragon in hand to place it in town, and when you place it, you have to follow the placement rules to put it down. Okay, so if I had this dragon in hand, it would have to go here or here. All right, in order to place it. I do get the bonus for placing it, so in this instance, I would gain a fancy dragon. In this instance, I would gain a coin. All right. The steel dragons here. Gain 2 of 1 good from shop or dragon here. So, and it's got to be 2 of the same. So in this case, I could do 2 meat, or you can count him as one of the dragons there, 2 steel. Here, I could choose 2 diamonds, or 2 leaves, or 2 steel. Here, I could choose 2 potions, or 2 steel. It can either be this icon or an icon on your dragon, but it's got to be 2 of the same. All right, the diamond, the shiny dragons, here gain 3 different goods. So again, goods has to be one of these resources, and it has to be 3 different ones. So you cannot take 3 diamonds. You cannot take 2 leaves and a potion. It's got to be 3 different ones. Your potion dragon here allows you to swap locations with another dragon in town. So it's got to be already out somewhere, and then you activate that one. So say I activate my purple dragon here, and for whatever reason I really want some resources, and I want to, so I would do this, and then I would activate my blue one, which we just discussed. All right, and it doesn't matter, they don't have to be adjacent. You could go down here with it. It just has to, you have to swap places. You can't just put that one blankly, and you can't drag one over. The purple one has to take its place. Last but not least are the bread dragons. They simply allow you to draw one from the park over here. There's always 5 on display, or you could draw the top one up here if you want to, if you don't like what you see. If you draw one from here, remember, replace it at the end of your turn. So if you get to draw multiple dragons, say you had 3 bread dragons out here and then activated this location, you would only get to choose from the 5 that's out here. You wouldn't get to choose one, refill, choose one, refill, choose one, refill. That would be a no-no. All right, that is your various activation abilities for each dragon. They're all the same. There is no pink Artisan dragon. The fancy dragon's like an extra playable miniature. For the enchantment cards, they're pretty straightforward. Like here, you would gain 4 victory points, plus you'd get to draw a dragon from the park. This one's just 6 victory points. These, however, you have to have a set. So you could, in this instance, still add this enchantment. All right, say you really want to add the enchantment so you can activate all the dragons. All right, you could turn in just 1 set of steel and potion to get 0 victory points. But as long as you, say, did this to turn in 2 sets, you would get 2 victory points. All the way up to 4 total sets, you're getting 8 victory points. All right. And that does it, ladies and gentlemen. That is how you play Flamecraft. So, let's talk about solo play. So what are the differences between solo play? On your particular turn, you play exactly as you would multiplayer. You're going to go to a location, you're going to choose gather or enchant, you can place dragons, you can gain resources, you can enchant, you move around the track. Your goal is to hit 75 points or more. All right. The timer, and you're kind of racing against time, because remember, whichever one of these decks runs out, that activates the end game. So there is kind of a timer that you're working against, because every time you take a dragon, you're making this less. The AI is also going to take from this pile. So keep that in mind. Your turns, as far as solo is concerned, are exactly the same as what I just explained. However, let's get this guy out here. This is the solo reference card. You can see here that you still have to pay 1 good for each dragon in shop. In this case, though, you just put it back in the supply. You don't give it to the AI. All right. And when you're setting up for the solo AI, you actually want to get all the other colored dragons out, because they're going to be placed out, and you could have up to 6 other players if you're playing with the fancy dragon. All right. When it's the AI's turn, before you start, you want to make sure you refresh the park, especially, you would refresh the board, but especially over here, you want to refresh the park. Then you're going to draw the top dragon from the deck, okay? And you're going to starting up here in the upper left corner and then going around clockwise, you're going to look to see where can you place this dragon. So I'm looking. The only place I can place him, or the first place I can place him, is here. Okay? Once you have placed this meat dragon, you're going to move the red dragon, in this instance, to that shop. All right, so you placed a red artisan dragon. You're moving the red dragon token to that shop. Now, you look to the enchantment row. Is there an enchantment that matches the dragon you just placed? Not the location, so this is a little backwards, but is there a enchantment that matches the dragon that you just moved? In this instance, no. There is no meat enchantment on the board right now, so you would skip that one. You would refresh this if they did pull one, but that's it. You move on to the next one. If, say for example, these two slots were filled up, they would come around and they would place here in one of these locations. They don't track VP. You're not having to beat them out and score, but know that they're going to reduce this pile by 1 every other turn. You take a turn, you may or may not draw from this pile, but every time they take a turn, they're going to draw from this pile. And so this is the timer. I think it's like I did the math, but I forget what it is, how many turns it is, but there's a finite number of turns. No, that's not right. Forget I said that, because if you don't take a card, then you're giving yourself an extra turn. Anyways, if, for example, let's find one we can do here. Nope, meat dragon's not going to help. Red dragon's not going to help. Green. Nope. All right. Well, goodness gracious. There is not a very good mixture. Okay, so say this is the AI's turn. We're looking. Here is the first spot that a potion dragon can be. All right, we're going to put our purple potion there. You do not gain a bonus if the AI comes to your shop, which is bogus. But in this instance, we've placed the purple dragon, and there is a purple enchantment. So we would pick this up, and then without having to pay costs or anything, we would look to see where can we add it. If there's a tie, you get to choose. But in this instance, there is only one option, and that would be to add it right here. So all this does is reduce this deck down. Again, another timer, but also make that location better so that if you go visit that location next, you're getting 3 potions instead of 2. Each location can only have up to 3 enhancements. So if the Smith Mart here already had 3 enhancements and we found another one, of course they're all going to be missing now from this purple deck. May only have 3 total. But if for some reason a blue one came out, they would not be able to add one because there is already 3 there. That's it. At the end of, or once this last card is drawn, you get 1 more turn, and hopefully at that point you have accumulated, after scoring all your fancy dragons, you have accumulated 75 points. There is, which is a nice touch and helps improve the solo game a lot. There is a little bit of a, I guess you could call it campaign. It's not really a campaign, but there are achievements and challenges. So you're going to start with a very specific shop deck and fancy deck in the solo mode, and then as you are successful, and if you're super successful, you're actually going to unlock 2 of these, but you're going to be swapping location cards out and adding fancy dragons into the mix. So that's going to, the look of your game is going to change, and simply just trying to get to these achievements is what has brought me back to the solo mode. Other than that, generally I'm not a huge just simply beat your own score type of person, but this isn't really a beat your own score. This is a, can you score 75 points before the timer runs out? So if you look at it that way, it's an entirely different game. But that is it. Like I said, this is a very straightforward, simple worker placement game. It's got a lot of charm and whimsy to it. That's where it shines. Obviously, the artwork is amazing. The dragons are really cute. This is a game that you could play with your children. It says 10 plus on the box. I have not tried playing with my kids yet. I'd be a little worried that they'd be a little lost as to, well, where do I go? There's almost too many options, and too little direction to go, because there's so many enchantment options. It's like, well, which one do I choose? Which location do I go to now? You know, it's so much open-endedness in the game. I would worry that kids would kind of get frazzled without having some direction. But maybe your children are entirely different than mine. So, be that as it may, this is how you play Flamecraft, both multiplayer and solo. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more content, which will include up next a solo playthrough of Flamecraft, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.